Part 2, hola mi gente, greetings. So with that being said, it may be a really important time for you to do some excavating. Now, we talk about Scorpio season being shadow work season. Yes, and that is true. And traditionally or historically, I've hosted shadow workshops during this time. I don't have the capacity. I'm sure someone else is doing it. But that doesn't mean that there's not an opportunity for you to always do the deep diving, always do the deep work of shadow work. And really, the first part of that work is, well, one, the investigation. You taking the time out to find out, saying, all right, I just got off the phone with my sister. I don't like how anxious I feel every time I hang up the phone. Or the fact that every time I call my brother, he asks me for money. Like, not a time goes by that he doesn't. That may start to really bother you now. Before, it may be something that you thought about, something that you joked about, you said out loud. Maybe you jotted it down in your journal. Damn, I feel like he's always asking for money. But you never said it out loud to him. Or you never had a real conversation with yourself about how it made you feel. You don't really sit in that energy. You kind of let it roll off your back and keep it pushing. Scorpio season is not the time for that, okay? We can wade in the water come Pisces season. You missed your opportunity during Cancer season if you did not. But this sign, this water sign, Scorpio, is about making yourself less uncomfortable. Because Scorpio, at the end of the day, understands that sometimes the venom is the medicine, right? Scorpio is connected to snakes and spiders and scorpions and all kinds of interesting entities that survive in very difficult places, right? They don't have a lot of food sources. They camouflage into space as well because they're in highly predatory spaces. Scorpions can survive nuclear holocausts, right? So it's like the nature of Scorpio itself is about confronting these deep things that some might see as fear or some might see as destructive habits and relationships. But Scorpio wants to get to the nitty gritty. I'm going to do a video about Venus being in Scorpio. I'm going to do a whole series about Venus, your Venus signs. But I'm starting with Venus and Scorpio. And I was just talking to someone about this. Like, Venus and Scorpio people are so intense. So intense. Especially if you were born like the late 80s. It's like a generational transit. I want to say like a lot of Capricorns have Venus. A lot of older millennials who are Capricorns have that placement. So if you were born in like between Christmas and I want to say the first 2 weeks in January, and like 86, 87, a lot of folks have that Venus and Scorpio placement. That's their natal placement. And then there's another, I'll do the math later. But the point is, Venus and Scorpio is such a highly intense position in the chart because it wants to investigate the depth and the ugliness of what it loves without abandon. Like, Venus and Scorpio might meet you today, this Monday, and y'all will go on a date every single day for this week because they're so fascinated in getting to know you. And when Venus and Scorpio takes you on that date, they're not asking about your favorite color because they honestly don't give a fuck. They're not asking about your middle name because they do not care unless they want to use your bank account, right? They're going to ask you, have you ever done drugs to escape or recreationally? Where did you see that? And you like, sir, I just met you yesterday. And you said we were going to have a nice coffee date. I said yes to the coffee date, right? I didn't push you, I didn't press you, I didn't want to go to Olive Garden. But now you're talking about my crackhead ass mama. And I got a problem with that because I don't know you. And they're like, no, I just want to get to know you. So I say that to say, excuse me. I say that to say that any Scorpio placement is super intense. Scorpio is always looking to do the shadow work. And depending on where it falls, you're going to feel that more intensely now because there is this Mercury Scorpio Saturn trine. There is the Scorpio new moon coming up. next week, and then again having it bookended with this Venus in Sagittarius as being super flirty and flighty, and then right after that Pluto moves into Aquarius, and then Mercury moving into Sag, which is going to change our communication style about the things that we have uncovered during the shadow work. So there's a lot to be done here. Now, what that looks like for you is different based on your spiritual journey, your healing journey, your dark night of the soul, your Saturn's return, you're this, you're that, you're that, and you're this. But for some people, here are some things that you may be able to expect, right? So for some, it's time for you to go back to church. And I sat here, and that message in particular came out of nowhere. So that's really for somebody on this page, on this channel, who needs to see or hear this. Because I was sitting here just writing down my notes, making sure that my dates were good, making sure that all the announcements that I had for you were correct. And then all of a sudden, Spirit was like, and tell somebody to take their ass to church. So, excuse me, some of you, it may be time for you to go back to church and to revive your relationship with the Lord. That also looks different for everyone. Some people found their way to ATRs or started to move through different practices and modalities of healing themselves and may have completely denounced the faith that they grew up with. They say, Jesus is not my homeboy, actually, right? I'm all about the ATRs. Or maybe dove headfirst into yoga and somatic healing and said, I can't be Catholic because they don't like for you to touch yourself in any way. But some of you are realizing that was my foundation, and there was safety there at some point before the abandonment or the betrayal or the rejection or the confusion. Maybe you just lost your way, but you still feel deeply connected to that. It may be time for you to go back and just say, hey, Jesus, what up? Hey, Soups, I didn't forget about you. You still my guy, right? I'll be here every couple of weeks, but I fucks with you. Some of you may need to go back just to remind yourself of why you left in the first place and why you still hate it here. That's some of you. Some of you may have said, all right, I peaced out. It was cute while it lasted, but I'm not looking back. And now you find yourself, again, craving familiarity or being nostalgic. And so maybe all you need to do is to walk into that space, the church, the mosque, whatever it is, and sit through a mass, sit through a sermon, just to remind yourself, yeah, I'm good where I'm at. Oshun got me. I don't need this, right? Because again, we are revisiting, we are rebirthing so that we can let the thing die for good. Now, some of you might need to visit the dead that you once loved, especially if you have a fear of the dead, fear of graveyards and cemeteries. If you have your mother's ashes in an urn, but you never touch them, you never put them in a proper place, they're just in the bottom of the closet. Some of you really have to reconcile your relationship with death and with the dead. And I'm not saying freak yourself out or do too much, but you might need to just confront the thing that you're afraid of. Go to the gravesite, give the flowers to your mother, and you don't have to visit it again. But you can't not go, and you know that energy is calling you there, but you're allowing your fear to control you. Scorpio season is about the veil thinning, right? Us getting closer and more connected to, yes, our Gede, our Egun, our ancestors, but also confronting the parts of ourselves that are dead, that are leaving us as walking zombies, okay? Some of you need to hold a literal funeral for that friendship, for that relationship, or for that part of yourself that has died. Some of you are acknowledging, I am nothing like I used to be. Yet your wardrobe still looks the same. You do your hair the same way, your makeup the same. You haven't changed anything in your apartment, but you have gone through the dark night of the soul, and you have lost the physical people, and you've gone to the graveyard and given the things, right? But you're still, everything externally in your life still looks the same. Spirit is saying maybe it's time for you to hold a literal funeral, act like you have died, because a new you has been born in its place. And so that might mean decluttering the space, painting the wall something different, giving away things, buying new clothes, changing your wardrobe. And it doesn't even have to be that. Maybe you thrift, or you ask your friends, okay, I'm looking for new pieces. Is anybody giving away anything? It doesn't have to be capitalist in nature, but it does have to be intentional, because what we don't realize is that subconsciously, when we are making these elevated changes emotionally, spiritually, energetically, but the 3D world still looks the same, it is difficult for your mind to accept that you have elevated in in your astral progression, right? Because again, we are here in this 3D matrix. And so what the eye can perceive to be true is what we receive to be true. So even if you haven't leveled up and you haven't done the dark night of the soul and that dying, just think about how you feel when you change your hair, when you change your nail color, when you get yourself a new fit, when someone compliments you when you're feeling down. You haven't maybe necessarily done the actual work to quantum leap, but you are tricking your mind to get there. Adversely, the opposite happens when you have actually done the work, but nothing in your world reflects that. So some of you need to shake this shit up, okay? Hold a literal funeral. Gather all your clothes from when you were 600 pounds. Put them in your living room. Light a candle. Say a prayer. Thank you so much. Look at how this fabric held my body. Thank you for keeping me together all that time. Thank you while I struggled to love myself and I spoke badly about the way that I looked in this dress. Thank you. On your Marie Kondo, I release you for all that you have done, and then donate it. Or if it's not acceptable to donate, burn it. But don't keep it. Have the funeral, let it go. And some of you who have not done that work need to let a part of you die peacefully. So what does that look like? It might mean that something that you are having difficulty, again, a shadow, a fear, a trigger, something you are having difficulty accepting needs to be confronted. And that could be all types of things. It could be that time to end the relationship, like I mentioned earlier, but it could be maybe you were raised to never ask for the help that you need. And this is when you let it die. This Scorpio season, next week's Scorpio new moon, is when you're like, I need help. And my mother told me not to ask for help, or not to ask people for money, not to let my man know that I'm struggling, or that we don't believe in therapy. But it may be time for you to do something different, because what you have been doing has not been working. So however this Scorpio season unfolds for you, I always hope that it is supportive, that it is gentle, that you have the things and the people and the places in place that you need in order to be able to start this process responsibly. Because one thing I do hate is that practitioners will say, do the shadow work, it's time to heal, dig deep, do the grief work. But if it is not in a container where it is done responsibly, then you can start to open wounds and people will just start bleeding everywhere and bleeding on everything, and it's more trauma, and it's trauma for the people that try to help. So if you don't have excuse me, if you don't have those supports, please do feel free to reach out to me. I have all types of practitioners in my network, therapists and psychiatrists, some who are spiritually connected, others who are not, somatic practitioners, herbalists, all the things. And so if you feel like you need some additional support, please do reach out to me. My DMs are open for that alone. If you're like, I'm struggling, I need help, that thing that you said in that last part of your video really hit me, I need to talk to somebody, my DMs are open for that. But don't come in with your foolishness, because baby, I will clip it very quickly, okay? So what do I want to say to you? A couple of things that might be supportive for you at this time that I do offer. On November 1st, the same day as the new moon in Scorpio, next Friday, I'm going to be offering a Gede season elevation service. It is it's a community ancestor altar, a community ancestor lamp for the elevation of your departed loved ones. If you would like to sign up for that, please put that on your calendar. Set a reminder that November 1st is going to be on and popping, and I'm going to share the flyer with you all. I'm also doing an ancestor veneration class teaching people how to create altars. Information about that will be coming out soon. Gede season is popping. The dead are my people, okay? The dead are my people. I talk to the dead. That's what I do. So I get very excited about these offerings. I'm also reigniting the Metreseli service for the higher self. And so there have been some wonderful feedback from the previous participants, and Metres is my girl. And so we're going to go ahead and restart that service. And so that's starting from tonight, really, or tomorrow, all the way until Veterans Day, 11/11. So if you would like to make a wish and be added to the Metreseli service, please do let me know. Yeah. And then my books are open for one-on-one tarot, Spirit Speaks tarot readings, spiritual development sessions, which may include a decluttering service. I don't offer that separately. It only comes with the spiritual development, but that may be something that you need at this time to shed during Scorpio season. I'm also offering baths and limpiezas more this season because the veil is thin, and mediumship consultations if you want to connect with your loved ones. Some of the altar services that I offer are cord cutting and uncrossing that may be supportive for you at this time. If that was helpful for you, I look forward to seeing you in some of these spaces. I'll do one quick poll. Let's see what they got for y'all before we run out of time. For Scorpio season, look at that. Number 44, passion flower, baby, surrender. Surrender, surrender.